And yet he wishes he could attend this event, but he has to, first of all, miss it because of a meeting, and second of all, he really wants to congratulate all of you and thank you for all the work you put in. Now, I want to first demonstrate 2016-2017 known publications from HSU community. Starts here, goes all the way down here on these posters.
Wow.
Those are the ones that we know of, that people have let us know. You are amazing, and I can only say thank you for sharing your good work with the world and letting us know about your publications. HSU authors, artists, editors, researchers, and scientists have been very prolific. Today we celebrate their connections between authors, authorship, and readers and readership. They've spent countless hours creating their powerful stories of life, gathering research data, and producing reports that support social justice, community, sustainability, and the environment. Among the great works today, I want to give a special thanks to all the faculty that promoted student publications. It matters so much that you include students in this process. It's a deeper learning and it has a huge impact. What you're doing is connecting the classroom to the rest of the world. So I thank you for that because it makes a very big difference in their lives. Recently, we saw the first opening of Courageous Cuentos. The launching was in October, and Courageous Cuentos is a reflective journal of counter-narratives by the CRGS community. Professor Maria Corral-Roddy and the students produced these stories. In the October readings of their stories, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. They were that powerful. And if that is what a classroom is like, HSU is a success in every factor. Now, HSU Library is committed to its mission of connecting people and ideas, supporting research and scholarship, and inspiring learning through discovery, inquiry, and creativity. We have recently launched the Humboldt Scholars Lab, HSU Press, and the Library Scholarship Internship Program. Along with cooperatively developing a Center for Teaching and Learning, we're investing in a very sustainable future that supports high-quality scholarship, intellectual curiosity, creativity, and educational works. Imagine if all the students at HSU had the opportunity to publish before they graduate. It's not hard to imagine when you see this kind of work, so thank you all for being a part of this. Now, rather than me talking, I'm going to introduce some of the authors to talk a little bit about their works, and then we'll cut the cake. So, is there anybody here from Courageous Cuentos that was going to give a little talk? No? So then I'll ask Toyon. Toyon, would you want to share a little bit briefly about what the journal is and anything you'd like to share?
I got you. All right, we'll see.
I'll hold it up if you want to. Angela Compton, thank you for sharing.
Hi. Hi, I'm Angela Compton. I was the managing editor of Toyon for 2016 to 2017. It's Humboldt's literary journal. It's the whole. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for this. It's completely put together by students, not that the entries aren't just students' entries, they're anybody's entries that wants to submit. But we in English 460 take the time and we use so much of our hours to put together this journal of works that we deem to be awesome. Like last year we had our volume 62, and this year we have our volume 63 that we worked so hard on last semester. We're actually, advertising for our release party for March 23rd. If you want to come and, listen to some of the readings of the submissions we accepted for last year. That's the 23rd from 5 to 7 at the KBR if you're interested in coming. We have flyers back at our table. It's a long process that helps students here at HSU learn the ins and outs of editing and what it takes to publish a literary journal. We give lots of resources to our students to help learn what it takes to go through this process and how they can continue on if they want to do this in the future after they graduate. It's definitely helped me in my views of publication and editing and what I want to do later on. And I hope that we're able to continue on with that legacy in our future classes as well.
Thank you, Andrew. Off the cuff, that was great. Now I'll ask Kyle Morgan, our Scholarly Communications Digital Scholarship Librarian, to introduce a couple more speakers that have published at HSU Press. So Kyle Morgan.
I like the press. Yeah.
Thanks for coming. This is really a great event to celebrate authors like this. So Humboldt State University Press publishes high-quality, open-access, scholarly, intellectual, and creative works by or in support of authors and creators of our campus community. And we want everybody to publish. If you have something you want to publish in open access, share your passion with the world, please contact me. Publishing is a uniquely impactful and empowering experience. If you talk to any of the authors here today, and they will tell you what it means to have that publication and to be a part of sort of this great world of publishing and librarianship and scholarly communication. So this is just one of a series of events that we're going to be doing that are going to be supporting authors and creators here. So on April 11th, we're hosting an HSU Unconference, Digital Scholarship, Publishing and Sustainable Learning, exploring, designing, creating, and sharing learning experiences. So if you want to submit a proposal or register to hear about the great work of students and faculty are doing with digital projects, publishing, or transforming curriculum to incorporate affordable learning solutions, you can find more information at humboldt.edu unconference. If you actually want to learn more about HSU Press, just search for Digital Commons at Humboldt State University. Now let's introduce a couple of the authors that have published through us. So the first will be James Gash, and he has published African Mass from the collection of James Gash, a very impactful book about African Mass in the context of their creation and exhibition. James and Roosevelt, I have fun.
Well, I'm only a sidekick here. The real author is James. And I want you to meet James. He is Emeritus Professor from Thomas State University, Board of Languages and Cultures. And he recently published a book dedicated to African Mass. I'll let him tell you about the genesis of this book, and then I'll come back again. I'll talk to you about how the students are involved in this process.
Thank you.
So I asked Roosevelt to say a couple of words because this is all about contextualization. It's about students, faculty working together. And I wouldn't have done this book without Roosevelt's participation and his energy. And that is also true of other colleagues here. It's especially true of Erica Botkin, who's in the back there, and she's an assistant editor. Erica teaches photography at CR and was a student here at Humboldt too, and did the photographs for the that were taken in the gallery. This book is about, the small book is about, so there's a larger version which the library has too. This is 60 pages. The larger version of this book is 200 pages. But, so I've asked myself, what kind of questions would you be thinking of? One might be, why does anyone collect anything? particularly why does one collect African masks? I taught African literature for a couple of decades and worked in Africa for a couple of years and have made 20, 25 trips to Africa, staying sometimes a few days, staying sometimes a few weeks. I see Valerie here, Valerie Budig-Martin. She and I taught Francophone African literature, met in conventions in the 1990s and talked to authors and started interviewing African authors that weren't yet sometimes known in the United States. And we had a great time doing that, introducing, because of the openness here of the kind of institution this is, we could interview authors over there, find out about their books, and come back here and teach them. We were introducing authors that hadn't come across the Atlantic yet. And that's because of the atmosphere here at HSU, and it's because of what's happening now at this library. It's just a sign of the times, a sign of what is available here to students. The HSU Press is a logical continuation of the interest that this university has in the world. Getting back to the mask, I moved from literature to mask. I understood when I had more time, I needed to spend more time in villages, not in the capitals of Africa, not in Rabat, Morocco, or in Dakar, Senegal, but I needed to spend time in the villages. And I understood that, and in order to do that, I had to talk to areas of Africa that were still traditionalist, that had somehow managed to escape the forces, globalization, modernity, Islam, Christianity, that are working against the preservation of those traditional cultures. The African masks were more than a segue to those cultures. They represent the cultures. They are the culture. They are the spirit of the ancestors, the nature. They are the way that we think of as textual, as biblical, as libraries. The masks are all those things, but they're disappearing. And this is a small attempt to present the carvers, to contextualize, to bring those masks to Humboldt, and to at least have this moment of appreciation for these cultures that we're losing very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I would like to underscore the student participation in this project. I wanted to tell you that from the very beginning, the students have participated in this project when we organized the exhibition, when all the masks came to HSU. It was the first time ever that we have an exhibition of African masks at HSU, and this is thanks to Professor James Gash. And the students participated in setting up the exhibition, and it was professional, it was fantastic, it was a professional work by the gallery program. And then that in itself is fantastic, and how I was telling my students the other day how this project really create bridges. At the time when we are building walls, this project create bridges. And the bridge is from Humboldt State University to Africa. And this is opening bridges in different directions because the students are working already, as we speak, they're working in a translation of this book into Spanish, so we'll be published in 23 Spanish-speaking countries. Countries that have not reflected much about the African heritage. And I was talking to one of the students today who participated last semester in the initial project of translation, And she said, you know, through this process, I recognize my Africanness, that I'm also African descendant. And I didn't pay much attention to until I began looking at the translation and looking at the mask and what the mask communicates. So in many ways, this project is a larger scale project of bridges in many directions. Then we're going to have the students in the French program who are going to translate this book, which is originally in English. They will translate this book into French. So in a way, the book will travel back to Africa, to West Africa. So the African colleagues, friends, students can read this in French because that's the lingua franca of West Africa. So I think that's one of the wonderful aspects of this project, how the students are part of the knowledge, are part of the knowledge building, and they become bridges to themselves and to different regions of the world. And this is a perfect celebration today because this is the International Week here at HSU. And so this is an example in how involved our university is and our students with the world. Thank you so much.
I'd like to bring one more author up who's published with HSU Press, John Schaefer, if you wouldn't mind coming up. His book also speaks, I think, very poignantly to this as well.
Well, I feel a little sheepish being here talking about this book because it's actually a second edition. It was published first in 2006 by the Southeast Asian program at Northern Illinois University, but then their publishing entity went under, went defunct, and wasn't operating anymore, so no one could get the book. And so I talked to director of the library, Sorrel Oberlander, and Carl Morgan, the scholarly publications head, and they were interested in publishing. And I think that's what's so wonderful. All writers want their works to be read. I mean, some may dream of getting $1 million for high book sales, but really people want to be read and to get responses from what they've written. So thanks to the Humboldt State University Press, this book is now available, and I'm so pleased. It's a story about a Vietnamese writer named Duan Thay Nguyen is his real name. His pen name is Vo Phien, and he spent half his life in Vietnam. He was a writer there. I first started reading him when I was teaching English in the late 60s and early 70s in Vietnam. And I admired his stories. And then he spent the second half here. He joined the communist movement in 1945 when the Vietnamese were trying to overthrow the French colonialists. And he was with the Viet Minh, as it was called, the Vietnamese movement, and then he became disenchanted with communism, and later supported the Republic of Vietnam government, and of course, because he did support that government, in 1975, he, like many people, wanted to leave and was able to leave and came to the United States. He was about 50 years old when he came. He wrote wonderful stories about country people in Vietnam, in Vietnamese villages. He was from central Vietnam in Binh Dinh province. Very moving stories about people he knew growing up in the countryside of Vietnam. And then when he came to the United States, his family, he and his wife and daughter came as refugees in 1975, and they were first at a refugee camp in Fort Indian Town Gap, Pennsylvania. Then a family sponsored them in Minnesota. He found that rather cold, and then finally they moved to Southern California, like a lot of Vietnamese do. And he wrote some very interesting reactions to the United States. He was somewhat mystified by Vietnamese culture, and started writing just to help him and his fellow refugees sort of adapt to this new land that they found themselves in. And I think one thing I learned from Walt Phien and his writing is that America's a wonderful place, and people want to come here, and refugees want to come here, but they also love their own country, and they come often because they have to come for different reasons, and that many would be happier staying in their own country if the situation there allowed. A friend of Walt Phien said, safe arrival here is like surviving a shipwreck. And you're very glad to have survived. You just wish the shipwreck hadn't happened. And then you could have stayed in your own country. So anyway, I'm so pleased that it's available. And just like I'm an English teacher, so now, I mean, it's not just all new works that come and become available, but older works like mine can still be available thanks to the efforts of the people here. Like in the old copies of the Toyon are also, as I understand it now, available. Earlier copies are available, which is, as a former English department faculty member, that pleases me greatly. So anyway, thank you very much.
Well, I think we have a special guest. President Lisa Rosbacher would like to say a few words. And then what we'll do is we'll invite all authors to come up and be photographed with their work. And then we'll
Picture of everybody, and then they
Thank you. President Rosbacher.
Thank you so much. And it really is emphasis on a few words. But universities are all about the creation, the dissemination of knowledge, the sharing, the distribution, the debate, the testing, the revision, and all of those are reflected in the work of the authors that we have here on campus and all of you whom we are celebrating today. Your work with developing information, integrating it, figuring out how it applies, sharing it, and leading the discussions about it so that we move knowledge further. It's what universities are about, it's what Humboldt State is about, and I really want to thank all of you for the ways in which you are contributing to further the mission of the university and the education of our students. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, but I would love to see all the authors come up here, grab their book if it's here, or if it's an article. I want to see you all up here. We're going to take a picture and then we're going to cut the cake. So come on up, authors. There's a lot of you in here. I see you. Thank you all very much. Come on up.
No, I saw this one. I was just trying to look for the other ones. They got checked out.
Wonderful.
I thought I was doing like expressions.
We're going to take the regular kind of phone photo, but we're also going to take a 360 photo thanks to the librarian over there, Tim Miller. It means that we have to hold steady for like an old-time photo for a little while, but it'll be one of the things that'll take you all in this picture too. So welcome to the photo. Come on up, Tim. Let's take it. So if you see your book, grab it and put it in front so you can showcase your work. And okay, so you're going to have to find the work, or if you're not, go ahead and stand there, and we're going to photograph you and you guys, so smile. Tell us when you're ready, Tim.
All right, is everybody ready? So I'm gonna take a series of photos. It's gonna take just a couple seconds for me to go around the museum hall. So everybody's ready.
So